get into our top fives, and I say they're plural because, Dallin, you have a top five yourself.
I do.
And we are so excited to hear that. We're going to jump into my top five first. And Dallin, we have started a series, Dallin. There's no stopping this train now. We did last week the quarterback of the 60s. And I'll tell you what, it's time to get funky. It's time to get far out because this list is the bomb. It's out of sight. On this week's edition of Mitch-Mo's Top 5 List of the Week, we're going to get into the top 5 quarterbacks of the 70s.
I love it. I love it. I can't wait to see where this goes. The 60s was a great way to start this off, the next decade up, and this one's going to have, I'm sure, some more great names on the list.
Oh my gosh, tons of great names. And tons, you know what? This era was stacked as well. I know I say that about every era, but this era truly was stacked. Honorable mentions: Ken Anderson, who I really wanted to put in my top 5, one of the most underrated quarterbacks of all time. He was the original West Coast quarterback. He played under Bill Walsh when he was the offensive coordinator over in Cincinnati. Great quarterback was Ken Anderson. Jim Hart, John Hadel, Billy Kilmer, and then I also put Archie Manning in there. And I know he didn't win a lot in the 70s, but his play was not because he was a bad quarterback. His play was because he was on terrible teams. In fact, I think he went 35 and 101 throughout the 70s. Like, terrible. Nice. But he was able to make plays for that team and be a really integral part of that team and the little success that they had. So I did have to put him here on the honorable mentions list.
Love that.
Number 5 on the list, down. Let's get right into it. I'm going with the guy that we had on our list from the 60s. I'm going Fran Tarkenton.
Okay. Fran
Tarkenton, his time with the Giants and the Vikings, 3 Super Bowl appearances with the Vikings. All losses, but like I said, this last week, his contribution to the game as far as a scrambling quarterback, what scrambling quarterbacks really mean to the game, Fran Tarkenton should absolutely be on this list. He was also named All-Pro and NFL MVP in 1975. Fran Tarkenton going to be number 5 on the list.
Double dipping. You know you had a good career if you're showing up in the 60s and the 70s, double decades. That's impressive.
You have to. Yeah. I mean, and this guy was really getting his career going in the 60s. So like that shows how well he was, how good he was in his youth, and then on the back half of his career, how great he was. So Fran Tarkenton, number 5. Number 4 on the list, I'm going to go Kenny Stabler. Kenny Stabler of the Oakland Raiders. One of the few successful left-handed quarterbacks in NFL history. Guy won a Super Bowl. If he won a Super Bowl, you're probably getting on this list. So I have to put Kenny Stabler on here. But you know what? He also did other things outside of a Super Bowl. He was voted NFL MVP in 1974. Even after 75 and 76 that were not so great. He led the league in completion percentage with 66.7, 27 touchdowns, and a passer rating of 103.4. Played in his 3rd Pro Bowl, placed 3rd in the MVP voting, and that was when the Raiders won their first NFL title in 1977. Kenny Stabler was the Snake. Ken the Snake Stabler. He was one of those, also one of those guys that kind of followed in the footsteps of Fran Tarkenton as one of those Russian quarterbacks. So Kenny Stabler gets number 4 on the list.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Number 3 on the list, Dallin, and he gets a little bit of a boost. Because of the 1972 season. Bob Greasy is going to be number 3 on the list because he has the perfect season, right? The
Fair enough.
1972 Dolphins, the only perfect season in NFL history. He was a great passer outside of all of that. But you lead a team to a perfect season. I know we've talked about Earl Morrall in the past when we talk about the great backup quarterbacks of all time and how he kind of filled in for that. But Bob Greasy was the driving piece behind that 72 Dolphins team, other than the no-name defense, right?
Right.
Nick Buoniconti and the no-name defense was really the driving force behind that 72 defense. But Bob Greasy really was the face of that undefeated team. And if you have an undefeated team and a Super Bowl winner, man, you got to be on the list somewhere. So Bob Greasy is going to get number 3 on the list.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, you could argue that's the biggest moment of the entire decade for the NFL is the Dolphins run in 72 going perfect and winning the Super Bowl. So yeah, I mean, if you're responsible for the greatest moment in the league's in the entire league in that decade, yeah. And on top of that, you were a very good quarterback. So I love that. That's good. Number 3.
Yeah, number 3. Number 2, and Dallin, this is where I really struggled. I really struggled deciphering who was going to be number 1 on this list. Number 2 on the list is going to be Roger Staubach. Roger Staubach, I feel sick even putting him at number 2. I feel sick.
You can't have a tied for 1, you know. You got to have a 1 and 2.
I feel
sick. To be 2. It's okay to be 2. It's not a disrespect.
The guy led his team to 5 Super Bowls throughout the decade.
And you put him number 2? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I put him number 2 for a reason, but damn, it's hard to put Roger the Dodger here. I mean, the guy served his country. What do you want me to tell you? I mean, and then he was an incredible passer. He was an incredible scrambler. He followed kind of the playbook of Fran Tarkenton, was able to use his legs. Roger Staubach's number 2. I don't know what to tell you. I feel sick putting him at number 2, but I also am not ashamed of who I put at number 1. So,
okay. Well, let's hear you have number 1.
Number 1 is Terry Bradshaw.
Okay.
I mean, he won 4 Super Bowls in the decade.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was. It was so hard to pick between those two, but damn it, he won 4 Super Bowls. He was the quarterback during the Steel Curtain defense. Won an MVP. He won 4 Super Bowls. I don't know what to tell you. I was so distraught over trying to figure out who was going to be number 1. I actually didn't come up for a good reason why this one should be 1 and this one should be 2. Because it's so difficult to separate these two.
Yeah.
They have they have career paths that kind of parallel each other. Just one more Super Bowls.
Yeah.
But one went to more Super Bowls. So how do you decipher those, you know?
I mean, Roger Staubach isn't giving away $1 million every week on NFL Fox on game days. That's all I'm saying.
He's not.
You know what I mean? Like, Roger Staubach, you can't win $1 million of Roger Staubach's money every Sunday if you bet on FanDuel. I mean, but you can win $1 million of Terry Bradshaw's money. So, you know, more iconic in the end with what he's built his career to be. You know, maybe you could make that argument. Isn't he a part of the what's the play off of, God, I'm going to get this wrong. I'm going to sound like an idiot. We're live right now. But is it the Franco Harris off the back and then somebody catches
the Immaculate Reception?
Immaculate Reception. Thank you. Oh, my God. I know I sound like an idiot. Please forgive me. But, yes, he was the quarterback for that play. And, again, kind of like we're talking about with Greasy, when you're a part of iconic moments, it makes you more iconic, just simply put. So, I don't think you can go wrong at 1 or 2 with either of those guys, but I like Terry Bradshaw at number 1. I like it. It's your list, Mitch. You do whatever you want.
And that's why I put so much pressure on myself, because I want to get it right in my head. I want to get it right in my head. And you know what? I feel okay with this.
Okay. So. All right. Run through your 5 one more time for the folks.
Okay. So number 5 on the list, I got Fran Tarkenton. Number 4, I got Ken Stabler. Number 3, Bob Greasy. Number 2, Roger Staubach. And number 1, Terry Bradshaw.
There you go. And that's the best quarterbacks of the decade, 1970s edition. So pretty good.
Next time, we got the 80s, bruh. We got the 80s.
That's going to be even tougher, man. I feel like it almost gets
my
harder
gosh.
as they go.
They do. They do get harder as they go. Absolutely.
By the time we get to the 2010s, Mitch is just going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore.
I'm going to be bald. Just like no hair.
I give up. Oh, no, that's incredible. Another great top 5, Mitch.